My warm greetings to all of you. What I will share and discuss in this presentation are just few of the contents of Dr. Kevin Gilmartin book entitled Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement with reference to the PowerPoint presentation of Dr. Thomas Liffvendale. The book of Dr. Gilmartin is not only for those in the law enforcement profession. It is also important for the family members of law enforcers to read and study, especially the wives of law enforcement officers, so that they can understand the biological changes that a law enforcement officer is going through. If there is a need to understand a teenager who undergoes a biological changes during his puberty which causes depression and delinquency, there is also a need to understand our law enforcers who are also experiencing biological changes due to hypervigilance at work. In 2004, during our training at the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia, USA, we studied emotional survival for law enforcement and leadership and human behavior. Because it fits my family problem, stress and burnout in law enforcement, I had a great interest in studying and sharing it in my lectures with the police, students of criminology and government employees in the places I was assigned as investigator. Emotional survival is a great topic in stress management training. It can provide emotional quotient and adversary quotient. I did this sharing as a crusade to protect the families and lives of our valiant law enforcers. In our journey of law enforcement, what are the changes in our outlook, behavior and actions? First, from being idealistic when we are new to the service, we later become suspicious or paranoid about the people around us. Law enforcement work consumes all our time, so we do not have time in our personal life like family. We change our perspective on things in the world around us, such as achieving justice and promotion, which involve connection and money matters. Our view of physical and mental conditions is affected. Law enforcement is a new world of life to journey within. In order for us to retire with flying colors, we must overcome the painful experiences of our peers. What are these things that must be overcome in the world of law enforcement? First, suicide. In a statistical survey of U.S. police deaths, 37% committed suicide. Second, we must overcome depression that leads to isolation, alienation from the community to which one belongs, and separation from loved ones that leads to annulment of marriage and broken families. When you notice this in our workmates, it is a sign that they have a problem that should be given immediate relief. And, third is the denial of the negative effects of the job. We cannot overcome it alone. We need the help of our agency leadership. But as long as there are no tragic incidents such as the suicide, hostage-taking or murder of the boss, it is ignored and not considered as an important responsibility of the authorities. One key to good leadership is to educate local law enforcers on how to balance the worlds they govern. We can make these worlds into two categories: firstly, the career world in law enforcement that we do not control, and secondly, the personal world we control, such as our family, fraternity, friends, spirituality, hobbies, and so on. In an interview with Dr. Gilmartin, he stressed that in order for teaching to be effective and to know the change in law enforcers, the leadership should provide mandatory training on emotional survival annually until retirement, and 30 minutes mandatory moderate physical exercise after shifting of duty to normalize emotions from being hypervigilant. What happens within a law enforcer while he or she is in service? What are his views on the world that have changed? For instance, he thinks Boy Scout leaders will be pedophiles. Doubt and suspicion formed within him. He treats all people with his own personal agenda, so even if he refuses to refuse, he nods to everyone who asks for his favor. He thinks that while he is in service, if anyone can bring income to the boss, he is the best and being promoted. What is the meaning of hypervigilance? A hyperchild is said to be naughty and difficult to control, and to be vigilant is to be alert always. The definition of hypervigilance in law enforcement is derived from the worldview that there is always imminent danger to the lives of law enforcement, so there must be extraordinary vigilance, alertness and caution. Compared to the ordinary citizen who does not need to check his daily situation, law enforcement officers need a high level of alertness so that he can protect himself from criminals. Inside our brains we have what is called the Reticular Activating System, which measures the level of alertness or awareness needed, and it is transmitted to the sympathetic branch of our autonomic nervous system. When we are on duty at work, our sympathetic nervous system takes care of our emotions and movements, and when we are off duty, parasympathetic takes care of us. Heightened awareness stresses the autonomic nervous system by increasing blood pressure, respiration, body temperature and other functions. How does a hypervigilant feels like? When I was a kid I used to ride the Ferris wheel every time there was a fiesta in our town. It feels good every time the Ferris wheel spins upwards with a chase on the breath, and when it goes down the breath is suddenly cut off. We can compare the feeling of a hypervigilant to those who have also tried to ride a roller coaster. What are the victims of hypervigilance roller coaster behave? First, they merge professional and personal roles, hypersensitivity to change, rigidity and inflexibility, ever-present feeling of being threatened and are persecuted, tend to retaliate against the power structure, social isolation from fellow workers except it shows few believers, grandiose sense of self-importance, and exaggerated perception of past accomplishments. What are the manifestation of hypervigilance? The manifestation of hypervigilance are increased in peripheral vision, improved hearing, faster reaction times, increased blood sugar consumption which can create a big belly, and elevated heart rate which create heart disease. Hypervigilance produces a general sense of energy to meet and overcome threats to personal survival. If you look at this diagram of the hypervigilance roller coaster, we can see above the diagram the condition of a law enforcer when he is on duty at work as alive, alert, alive, energetic, involved, humorous. At the bottom of the diagram we can see the situation of an off-duty law enforcer at work as tired, detached, isolated, apathetic. The line which goes up and come down and goes up again and come down again is a picture of the hypervigilant roller coaster life of a law enforcer who does not know how to balance his emotions with his work and personal life. We experience this when we spend most of our time at work and we no longer devote time to our personal lives. We forget that when we were not in service we had the identity as husband and father, as a worshipper, friend and ally of our support group in our community, that in fact they are the number one help us when we get sick and in trouble. As time goes on in service, we lose our identity in our personal world because we are addicted to the exciting, challenging and adventurous career in law enforcement. Our identity has changed to I as my job. I am a law enforcer. I am no longer the thoughtful and responsible family man. At the center of the diagram are two equal lines called the normal range of risk, where we have a balanced investment of time in work and personal life. To fully normalize emotions and return to the normal range of risk requires a hypervigilant officer to rest for 24 hours. What an officer often does when he is off duty and comes home to his family is to sit and watch TV, use a computer or cell phone, and he does not want his family members to disturb him. When he hears the noise of his wife and small children, he gets angry and can hurt or leave the house and have a drink at the bar where he relaxes with seductive women. Because he does not care about his repeated hypervigilant condition, he will leave and give a reason why he is womanizing, drunk, on drugs and gambles. He said that his wife did not take care of him or serve him after he returned from work. This biological condition is mistakenly interpreted to be a mental state. Avoidance of this negative state is manifested by staying on duty like overtime, volunteer work, and others, for as long as possible. Unfortunately, overinvestment in a law enforcement career can destroy home life and family relationships. The negative behaviors caused by being hypervigilant at work are: first, desire to be alone at home; second, unwilling to talk or participate in activities and decision-making unrelated to his job; third, rarely socializing with non-law enforcers; 4, not leading family decision-making as to where the family is going on vacation or going on Christmas or New Year; 5th, unfaithful to spouse causing annulment of marriage, divorce, broken family and rebellion by children who, even if the father in the law enforcement is sick or dying, the children still do not want to visit because the father is only a good law enforcer but not as a responsible parent. It is not unknown to us that most of the inmates in prison cells are coming from broken families. And the sixth is the lack of interest in former sports and hobbies. What are the long-term effects of being hypervigilant? First of all, being a law enforcer can overwhelm significant aspects of one's life. Second, we become aware of the reality that our control over the course of our profession is limited. Our promotion, consequence of the case involved, demotion, or dismissal depends on the power of the bosses, administration, politicians, law, courts. The more we feel that we have no control over our work, the greater the chance that we will see ourselves as victims. Third, our limited control over the perception that we have the entitlement, so it is only right that we feel oppression from those above us. Because after giving our full time, attention, energy and life to our work, we are tortured and oppressed by ungrateful bosses, agencies, administrations, politicians and courts. When a law enforcer experiences that he or she is an incompetent victim, his or her important behaviors such as nobility, bravery, integrity and so on are tested. And because of oppression or victimization, it is only right to retaliate, such as hostage-taking, throwing a grenade in the boss's office and others. A law enforcement officer who thinks he or she is a victim will later on be late or absent from work or just going into the office but doing nothing but playing cards or drinking. And if he works in the office, it is just a compliance. If this continues, he will eventually be able to violate his agency's policies, regulations and SOPs. To overcome the effects of hypervigilance, it is necessary to change the perspective of being a victim to the acceptance that we have little control over our profession. That we accept that as law enforcers we live in a limited world that only acts on crimes. Only in a controlled world can we do more than our duty demands, such as in our controlled home where important family habits such as love and caring can be planned and practiced. What are Dr. Gilmartin survivor tools? First, time management. We should have a calendar of important family activities such as birthday, anniversary, Christmas, children's graduation, churching and more. Now, in case you find yourself on duty at work on a scheduled event, make the celebration advance, thereby showing that you give them more priority. It is also good to go back to the things you used to do that made you happy and gave you peace before you became a law enforcer, like your passion for sports, teaching, or spirituality. Second, is physical exercises, and at least 30 minutes, because sweating releases brain chemicals that kill stress and depression such as dopamine and endorphin. The moderate exercise I do is the moving yoga known as Tai Chi. To avoid the wearing and tearing our muscles and getting our hearts tired too much, choose non-strenuous exercises. And third is financial independence. Reduce costs or cost cutting. Put the needs of the family first before the wants. Avoid borrowing because it is stressful to pay that when the salary is low due to many loan deductions, and in order to pay them, you can be tempted to corrupt. Also avoid having a family in every place of assignment because it is expensive and you may be tempted to accept money from syndicates, gambling and drug lords. I recommend that you read the full content of the book in Dr. Gilmartin. You can buy this timely emotional survival book from online shopping on the internet. It is better if you read it over and over again and give it to your family members so that they can understand what you are experiencing in the law enforcement. In one of the interviews with Dr. Gilmartin, he mentioned that a veteran officer came to him with copies of his book to be autographed because he said he would give it as a gift to his wives who divorced him and to apologize to them for his unbalanced emotional investment between work and family. There is another document that you can download from the internet worthy of reading. This was published in the FBI Law Enforcement Bulletin dated May 2009 regarding the wellness and spirituality, authored by FBI Special Agent Feemster. I was interested in it because when I was at the FBI Academy I had a fellowship encounter with FBI Special Agent Feemster. He considers the holistic approach to protect law enforcement officers from the many years of exposure to toxic crimes is spirituality. And at a conference conducted by the FBI attended by practitioners of spirituality, they agreed that it would be better to have videos of the testimony of law enforcers who benefited from the practice of spirituality as they pursued the most toxic work of law enforcement. Since the publication of The Wellness and Spirituality by FBI Special Agent Feemster, I joined religious groups to research, study and internalize their respective spirituality, and I was able to make my own video on my spirituality, which I believe it can help law enforcers to take care of their inner self. Before I end, please don't forget to share, like and subscribe this video. Thank you very much.